Hi, this is Catherine, and this is Taking Tea with Catherine. This is Thai Fu tea. I think it's Thai Fu Gold, because that's special. Gold, like Yorkshire Gold, all those things. It was the English import tea that I could find in the grocery stores when I was shopping for staying indoors forever. Because the tea I usually drink in the morning is at my office at work, so where I can't go right now, and it's my habit to drink a strong British tea in the morning because that's my habit. And that's tying in with my tag today. It's Tuesday, so let's do a tag Tuesday because I really don't have a lot of reading updates right now. And so I'm doing the reading habits book tag. The last time I saw it is was by Jennifer Brooks, and it just looked like such a great tag to do because it's an easy tag. You can talk about your reading habits, but you don't have to think too much because you're just talking about yourself, your habits, and that's good because sometimes I just need to do an easy tag, if that makes sense. But before I get started, I have to give you a big update, which I think oh, the hair is a mess. There's so many things that we can't do. Everybody's having ups and downs right now with staying at home. Pretty much everybody I see on BookTube is home right now when they can be. And it's, some people are upbeat, but some people have been getting a little down, and I totally understand that. So I think we need a little bit of happy news. And I have very happy news. I'll show it to you in a moment. Yes, look who it is. I'm waking her up. How is this even possible? Well, yeah, it is totally unexpected, but a good thing. So Janie, as you guys might have known, was missing for over a month, and I did all the searching that I could possibly imagine doing. And on a regular basis, I would open my kitchen window when my cat Freddy was locked up in the other room because Zenobia doesn't jump out, but Freddy might. I don't know. Don't want to give him the option. And I would go, Janie, all that stuff. No response. Only the other cats coming up looking for food and looking at me and running away. So I was home as normal yesterday, working from home. I actually do have some work that I'm doing from home, which is great. But later on the day, I got a text from my pet sitter that my cat is a few buildings down from me in the backyard. Someone called her. My pet sitter is not just a pet sitter, and she does a great job of that. Very reliable. But she rescues cats, she traps, neuters, release TNR, that sort of thing. All the things that I kind of thought I might do one day, but I never got to that point. And that's fine too, because not everyone has that ability, but you never know in the future. But yeah, she's good at that sort of thing. So a neighbor, I've mentioned before, I don't have access to my backyard unless I climb out the window that looks out in the kitchen to the backyard. Over some stairs that go down to the basement. So in order to get out of that window, I have to kind of swing to the side, these cement layers, and then hop down. Someone of my limited balance abilities and poor motor skills should not be doing such a thing unless there's a fire. And I haven't done it in over a decade. I maybe have done that twice in my life, and it was even scary when I was younger. So yeah, I don't have access to my backyard. I don't have access to my basement either, and which would lead to the backyard. So I can't go out there, but I can lean out a little bit, try not to get vertigo. And she had sent me a picture that the neighbor, who doesn't actually live, so the view looks out to the next street over. So one block down, you can see all the people in the back of their buildings, and then you can also see the side. So they were looking across to a backyard on my side of the street, a couple buildings over. And in the picture, I could see a ladder and a cat that looks like Janie. So I leaned out, saw the ladder, and I saw Janie, and I heard her, and I was trying to get her to come over to me, shaking treats, opening cans. She was just looking at me, which is kind of insulting, but I only had her for a month, so I can't really take it too personally. So the neighbors on the other side were coming out, looking out through their um, fire escapes. They came out trying to get to her, but they wouldn't pick her up because they knew that she scratches. She scratches, and they shouldn't take risks right now. But my pet sitter showed up with all the cat trapping equipment, and she was fully covered, masks, everything. And she got Janie, and then I came out with my full stuff on, and identified her for sure, and was able to take her home. And now Janie's home. I'm kind of still numb about it because I'm happy that she's home, but it was just such a sudden, after giving up basically. I mean, everybody said don't give up, she'll come back, and I said I hope, but I don't want to live in hope because then I might just get depressed. So she's home. She's making all the howling noises again when she wakes up. So I think she might be in heat again. It's been, I mean, when I lost her, she was just out of heat. So it does coincide with the schedule, I guess. So that possibly means that she's not pregnant, but I still need to get her spayed. I don't know when I'm going to get her spayed because of this whole situation. But if I can, I will. And that is the update. And it's a happy update. Hopefully she won't escape again. I'm going to do everything I can so that she doesn't. Yeah. You know how like we're all being so careful now, washing our hands so much more than we ever used to? I mean, I always wash my hands, always. But now I'm like washing every minute of my hands. That's how I'm going to be about keeping my cats in. So careful. So that is it. Very happy about that. And let's do the reading habits book tag. Number 1, do you have a certain place at home for reading? I don't have a designated place, but I find myself mostly reading on the couch. I just like it. It's cozy. And I can be with any one of my cats at that time. Zenobia is my oldest cat. She's 15. I'm so glad she made it to 15. But she doesn't go into this room, the library, at all because one time she got into a fight with Freddie, who you see often in this channel, the orange cat. And ever since then, she won't go in this room. And I feel bad about that because she was here first, but I can't. I tried carrying her in here. She got terrified. It was not fun. So I'm just used to the fact that this is the side of the apartment she won't enter. Which means that even though I still come in here, obviously, and I like it in here, I don't spend as much of my reading time as I used to in here because I feel sad that she's in there. Especially when she's awake. If she's in the middle of napping, I don't care so much. So I tend to want to spend more time and the couch is very comfortable for reading. So that's my more common spot, but there's no like designated. Number 2, bookmark or random piece of paper, both. I love bookmarks, and when I can, I use a bookmark. Because I have so many books going at once, sometimes I run out of books. And some of my bookmarks I don't use at all. I don't care for them anymore. Although I kind of like this one. You know, I got this in Liverpool back in 1994, so it's really old. But it looks pristine, so I must not use it very often. But I will use anything, like paper-wise, an old Metro card, a receipt, whatever I have on hand. Or if it has a string in the book, I'll use that. Number 3, can you just stop reading, or do you have to stop after a chapter, a certain amount of pages? Like, it seems almost like a compulsion, like you have to get to the end of something before you finish reading. And I don't have that compulsion. I can stop whenever I want, but I prefer to stop at the beginning of a page, like the first paragraph of the page. If possible, I'd love to make it to the end of a chapter, but I can usually pick up where I left off, so that's not a problem. Number 4, do you eat or drink while reading? I do like to curl up, as you probably can imagine, with a nice hot cup of tea with my book. And sometimes I'll treat myself in the evening to a glass of wine with a book. I will eat when I'm reading, but not as often. It depends on the situation. If I'm eating anything that might make a bit of a mess, I don't want to mess up my book. But if it's a small, easy snack, I might do so, but not very often. I tend to not read while I'm eating, unless I'm eating out. If I'm eating out by myself, I will take out a book. That's just how I am. Number 5, multitasking. Music or TV while reading? Yeah, mostly TV. I mean, sometimes I'll put on music, but not when I'm out. When I'm out, if I'm reading on the subway, I usually don't have my earphones on. But I don't mind background noise. I grew up with my dad who liked to have the TV running very much most of the day, so I was used to hearing the sound of the TV in the background. I remember reading, speaking of the Beatles, I remember reading some biographies about John Lennon, and he used to sit on his bed or wherever with the TV going, sometimes playing music, writing, reading. He used to do all the things at once, and it seemed to be a mark of genius, so maybe I'm a genius. Or maybe I have some kind of disorder, I don't know. But I tend to like to hear something in the background. I don't need it, but there's no such thing as absolute quiet. In my apartment, if it's quiet, I'll probably hear some little noise from outside. Or one of my cats, usually not Zenobia anymore. She's kind of gone mute in her later years. But my other two cats, now I can say that. Especially now that Janie's in heat. Oh my goodness, the noise. But Freddie too. Sometimes he'll just start whining. And that annoys me so much and I can't concentrate on reading. So I'd rather have the television in the background to drown that out. Usually I'll put either something on the news when it's not too depressing, or I'll put some kind of program that I've seen before, don't really care about concentrating on, so it could just blend in. Yeah, so number 6, one book at a time or several at once. If you've watched any of my previous videos, more than several at once. But when I talk about the actual currently reading, I may say I have 10 books going at the same time, but it's usually more like 2 or 3 that I'm really reading that week. So yeah, I haven't done a one book at a time in ages. Number 7, reading at home or everywhere. Well, at this exact time, while we're all at home, I'm obviously reading at home. Any other time? Yeah, I sure love to read while I'm at home, but when I'm out, unless I'm in a social situation where reading is not good to do, it's rude or whatever, I am reading everywhere. If I go to the park, I am taking a walk and then I'm sitting on a bench or on the grass, on a blanket, reading. When I'm when I'm out and about, I read. When I'm on public transportation, I read. If I was a driver, I'd probably do audiobooks. If when I'm going to a cafe, when there are cafes around, I read. We mentioned that about eating. When I've traveled alone, I brought books with me all the time because sitting there by yourself, no matter what you're eating, it's kind of depressing to just sit there. It's kind of nice to have something to read, and not just your phone, you know. So yeah, everywhere. Number 8, reading out loud or silently in your head. I would say 98% of my reading is done silently in my head. There are poems or plays that feel better reading out loud, but I still don't do that very often. If I'm by myself, excuse me, if I'm by myself and I'm, by the way, that was allergies. I'll get scared so far. If I'm by myself and I'm reading a passage and I don't seem to be able to frame my mind around what I'm reading, I may read a paragraph out loud just to get it. But I don't do that very often, to be honest. And sometimes there's a phrase that really interests me and I might echo it a few times. But I know I grew up with my sister who was a big reading out loud person. And I liked listening to her. I felt very much like a Victorian or Regency person, you know, who would sit in a parlor or drawing room, whatever room it was called back then, and listen to one person reading. That was quite pleasant sometimes, and she's a good reader, but just never really picked up on that myself. Number 9, do you read ahead or even skip pages? Okay, so I had a friend one time who was a pretty decent reader, but not like, you know, not as much as me, but she was a decent reader. But I had her over to my place and I was showing her a book that I wanted to recommend, like a novel or something. And she went to the very last page. I just got, I wouldn't say enraged, but I found myself being quite annoyed. I was like, for me, reading a novel or work of fiction of any kind, I feel like I need to read it in order. I need to, in a linear fashion, I need to be surprised where, you know, the pacing needs to be right. And reading the end first is upsetting. It disrupts my entire thoughts. And I remember one time reading a book, and it was not A Christmas Carol, by the way. But, why? She's stretching on me. So I was reading a book and I I don't know why I skipped ahead for a second and I saw a picture of a gravestone with a character's name written and their date of death, and I was like, oh. So I don't want to be spoiled. I don't want to be. I want to be surprised when things happen the first time I read it. When I'm reading it a second time, I don't care as much. I'll skip ahead. I have been known to skim some pages when I realize they're going on and on about something, like in some classics, like a Victor Hugo or some Dickens, that kind of writer, where they really are just pontificating on something or just going off about something that is just like, really? Do I need to know about this? I don't skip ahead entirely, but I'll just sort of glaze over a few pages while I'm going at it. I don't have a problem with doing that. But yeah, no, I wanna read it from cover to cover. In nonfiction, there's times when you know it's gonna happen anyway, because you probably read a Wikipedia article on it, like a history book, whatever. I may look ahead to check something, but even then, not too much. Breaking the Spine is number 10. Breaking the Spine or keeping it like new. If I can, I will keep it like new. I will not purposely break a spine, even though I know the sound is kind of cool. But if it ends up, having the line in the middle after being well loved, that's okay. I'm fine with that. And then I'll probably be more inclined to eat with that book too, because now the book is almost not ruined, but now all bets are off. So, and that kind of goes along with number 11. Do you write in your books? And I mean, I did with college textbooks, things like that. Sometimes you do want a little note to self. I'm not in a big habit of doing that anymore. I have made my little comments about how I don't like finding my used books with writing in it, unless it's really cool writing. But it's usually not. But if it's your own book, you're totally allowed to do what you want with it, obviously. But if I have a book and there's something I want to write in it or something I want to remember, I'll probably put a Post-it note in there, some kind of flag or whatever. If either I'll write on the Post-it note, or I have occasionally taken out a pencil, and written lightly a little note to myself or a little response to the author, or a correction if I see a correction that needs to be made. Because why not? I mean, you're totally allowed to. For me, I just don't like to do it in permanent ink, because I feel like I never know when I'm going to be wanting to sell my book back or give a book to somebody, or I'm going to die and someone has to, get rid of my books, and I'd rather, I don't know. Some people think it's cooler to have books that were written in, and I get that. I do, but I just personally don't prefer it. But I understand, So, hope you've enjoyed this tag and this update as well. Janie is currently still napping, which is good, because when she's napping, she's not howling. If you are a booktuber or a book blogger or a book Instagrammer or whatever, please, and you haven't done the tag yet, please feel free to do so. It's not my tag, but I love these kind of tags to watch other people do. If you're not, or if you just feel like commenting, please comment down below. But your own habits, your own responses. Yeah. And if you like this content or previous content, please feel free to subscribe. I did crack 700 recently. Thank you very much. And sometimes it goes back down to like $6.99, which is a little annoying, but there are worse things in life to be annoyed about, but I'm very happy and thankful for my subscribers very much. So that's all for today. This has been Catherine, Taking Tea with Catherine. Have a lovely book-filled and, yes, cat-filled day. Bye.